Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Side Modified YouTube channel. Today we're going to be working on the IS300 that we had just got. You saw in the last video we had already got it, just played around with the rod knock motor a little bit, and we pretty much clay barred it, buffed it, polished, waxed it, we cleaned the interior, so the car is pretty much like nice now, nicer, and now it's to the point where we need to start pulling the engine out because the engine is bad. So the plan is we're just going to take the car, we're going to push it back a couple feet, and we're just going to start ripping the engine out. Now, I've pulled out a lot of GEs back in the day, but I have not done it in a while, so I don't really know how fast I'm going to be able to pull this sucker out by myself, but we will see. Yeah, we got a lot of work cut out for us, but it's nothing that we can't handle. So we're gonna start ripping away on that. We're gonna push the car back just a little bit, that way we can have some room and we can work on it, most importantly in the shade. Now, I don't want to get oil all over the place, so it's gonna kind of take me a little bit longer than I want to, because I got to take all the fluids out one by one and make sure I don't spill anything all over the floor. So I do have those over there. I got the oil pan and the drip pan, so we're gonna utilize those, and we're just gonna start draining the fluids right now. This car is so high, I don't even know if we need to put it on jack stands. We might put it on jack stands, I don't know, I'm not really sure. Anyways, we're gonna get this engine out. I'm just gonna put on the time lapse. It's probably gonna be a long time lapse, but it's all good. We're gonna get this sucker rolling. Just about got the motor ready to pull out now. This isn't really how to, but I just want to explain to you guys how simple this task really is. You know, I remember I mentioned earlier I said I could do this in an hour. That wasn't really the case, because the automatic transmission stuff is kind of a pain in the ass, but I think we did it in about 2 hours, and by we I just mean me and myself and I. So let me show you what I got going on. So this is pretty much the motor ready to pull out. Now, the only thing you have to do, if you're pulling the transmission out with the motor, you don't have to worry about the bell housing bolts because they're really hard to get to. But what you do have to worry about is disconnecting all the electrical and getting everything out of the way. So let me show you. If I know the bolt size, I'll tell you. I just went ahead and started taking out the intake box. There's a 10 mil right here, 3 10 mils right here, and then a 10 mil connecting it to the throttle body, so that was out of the way. Then you have to take the power for the alternator, which is connected to the main fuse box, so you have to undo this 10 mil, and you can keep all of that stuff with the engine because the MAF plug is kind of like snaked in with that wire, so you have to keep those with the engine. Now the wires on this side, there's 3 10 mils right here, 1 2 3, and then you can unplug everything motor related from the ECU, the igniter, and everything is like little snap clips. You just snap them out of place, and then you just keep those with the motor as well. And then the starter wire kind of runs across the top and connects to the positive battery terminal. You take the starter wire off right here and you just keep it with the motor. So now pretty much all your electrical is disconnected, other than there's a few O2 sensors that I went ahead and just disconnected because they were fastened to the frame rail of the car, so I just undid those. And then as for the exhaust on the bottom, there's a Y pipe. The Y pipe is 3 14mm bolts, and you take that off of the headers. And also under here, let me just snake the camera under here. What I did was I drained the fluid from the transmission. That was a 14mm as well, I believe, or was it a 12? No, I think it was a 14. Then I took these off of the cross member, 12mm, and then the cross member to the car is gonna be 14. The shifter linkage connects right here. That was a 12mm. What I did was I marked it with a marker where the bolt sat because it's adjustable. So I went ahead and did that. And then you're pretty much done under the car. Oh, another thing, the main fuel line was a 17mm. You just disconnect the banjo from the engine, keep that with the car. There's a ground right there. I think that was a 12 meter as well. Keep that with the engine. And then there's a ground right here for the head. Went right here. What else? Oh, the radiator. It has the automatic transmission cooler lines on the bottom, so I disconnected that, and you see I just bent it and zip tied it so they don't leak. And then the radiator's pretty self-explanatory. Just 2 of those hose clamps. And then the 2 fan plugs, and then the fan plugs right here, you keep them with the car. In this case, I did disconnect the AC compressor because I'm going to be keeping it with the car. I'll bolt it to the new engine. So I think that was a total of 5 14mm bolts. Some of them are in the front, so you have to wait till you get the radiator out to get those suckers out. Then there's this bolt with a stud, and you need a 12mm hex for that, or you can just smash a socket on there. You need to pull the stud out because you can't slide the compressor off of the engine without hitting the frame rail. So now the compressor is loose and it's cool to just chill right there. We'll make sure that it doesn't hit the engine when we lift the engine out. Oh yeah, the motor mount bolts, you can get to them from the bottom of the cross member. There's 2 17mm. You'll see the slots in the bottom of the cross member. You can get those puppy out. So there's 4 of those. You also have to disconnect the heater lines from the car. So I disconnected the heater lines from the heater core. We're going to leave those with the motor. And then down here you'll notice, I don't know if you can see that wire right there, that is the chassis to engine ground. So disconnect that from the engine and keep that with the chassis. I disconnected the banjo bolt right here from the bottom of the power steering pump. That was a 17mm. I just let it drip all over the place until the reservoir was empty. Then I went ahead and swung a plastic bag over it so it leaks in that sucker. So then I also put a plastic bag over this banjo that sits pretty much right here, out of the way. And then there's this right here. This disconnects from the side of the reservoir. That was dry, so I didn't need to worry about that. So we just kept that with the car, swung it out of the way. Oh yeah, and then also you have to disconnect this right here is the evap line for the fuel tank, I believe. And then that's connected. And then this right here, this is the vacuum line for the brake booster. Oh yeah, and then you got to disconnect the throttle cable. Easy stuff, literally easy stuff. I was able to do this all in about 2 hours by myself. Shoot, I know I might be forgetting something, but it's really pretty straightforward. And then as for the drive shaft, when you start pulling the engine forward, the slip yoke should slide right out of the drive shaft. And then what you want to do is you want to slap a glove on the end of it, just in case there's anything, because when we're taking this motor out, I have this load leveler. We're going to tilt it, and when we tilt it, all the trans fluid is going to want to rush out of there. And I know even though we drained it, there's still going to be some residual in there. And let's get to the reason why I'm not pulling the whole core support off, because technically you could just take this motor and pull it straight out. But since I am keeping AC, the condenser is right here, so it's gonna be kind of hard to like finagle out of the way. I mean, I guess we could, but there's really no reason. You know, you got the power steering lines and everything right there. So I'm going to try to use this load leveler to kind of tilt it, and then we'll just lift it above the front core support. This load lever is pretty cheap. I think I got it for like 40-50 bucks on Amazon. Now it's meant for you to connect it to both sides of the motor, that way it's straight. But I think hopefully we should be able to get away with this. Worst comes to worst, we just drop it on the core support and then we're all upset, but it's okay. So she's ready to pull out, but I gotta take off for the day. I gotta go to work, so we're gonna pull it out first thing in the morning. I will see you guys then. Okay guys, just like that, engine is out. And I got the car pushed over here on the grass because I'm gonna pressure wash the engine bay again, because no matter how much of a hurry I'm in, I like my stuff clean. So we're gonna pressure wash the engine bay again. We're gonna get all the gunk off of the cross member and the steering rack. And we're gonna clean up the bay a little bit. We'll probably spend like an hour doing that. But before we do that, I got the new engine in the back of my truck. I went and picked it up last night. So this engine, I believe it's out He says it was out of an IS300, but I don't really know. So we're going to see if the motor mounts and everything match up. If not, then we're going to take stuff off the other motor. So it doesn't have an intake on it. That's no problem. We're gonna move the intake and the harness from my car anyways, since it's an 01. It's got a different harness than like pretty much every other car. So we're gonna make sure that these are the same. Looking at it right now, I don't really know if they are the same. So we might have to switch these over. It has an engine, trans, and torque converter and everything. So what I'm gonna do is just see if all my shit plugs into there. Then we'll just use this whole setup. Hopefully it works, or else it's gonna be a shit ton more work for me. But for now, we're gonna get it out. I got these car dollies. We're gonna set it on because I don't wanna move my Lexus out of the way. So we could just put it on the car dollies and push it through here. The hoist will not fit. So we're gonna get this engine back here. That way we can start cleaning the car and transferring the stuff from engine to engine. So we got a lot of work ahead of us. Okay guys, not gonna lie, kind of a nightmare. Yeah, so moral of the story, when you buy something, make sure it is what you think it is, because I ended up having a lot more work to do for myself. Yes, they're the same engine, like the 2JZ. I don't know if the transmissions are different, so I'm probably just gonna end up throwing this trans on here. I don't know if the torque converters are different, so I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna swap this next. I did swap the valve covers. I'm going ahead and swap the coil packs. I'm gonna put new spark plugs in here. Yeah, as you can see, these motor mounts, as you can see, this is the intake mount. Look at the mounting holes next to the right side mounting holes for the motor mount. Over here, it is the complete opposite. It is closer to the front two mounts. So long story short, you have to take this oil cooler off, and not a big deal, but it's just a lot more work than I anticipated. I should have known what I was getting myself into, buying a motor that was in pieces, but I went ahead and took the whole intake manifold and engine harness from the 2001 car, and I'm going to transfer it all onto this engine. So that harness is junk. I don't even know what harness that's from, probably SC300 Super, I don't know. Yeah, but as long as the motor runs, I don't really care, but it's just a lot more work. I did pull off the valve covers. It looks like the head was pretty clean, almost like the head has been done before. So we, hopefully, maybe we might get lucky, or maybe this engine really does have a problem. Who knows? So the only way is, I was going to compression test it, but I don't even want to freaking know. I'm just going to throw the engine in the car. If it runs good, cool. If not, shit. I've been swapping a lot of the coolant lines too, because the coolant lines on this motor are a lot better shaped than this motor. I'm going to keep trucking along on this. Look, it looks like a freaking disaster here. I have to swap the exhaust side motor mount bracket. As you can see, look at the hole, and then look at the one on this one. So it's just the little things, and you know, the alternator and all the power steering pump and stuff like that are going to go on this motor. Hopefully this water pump is good, because I'm not touching it. The timing belt looks okay, so it's getting left on. We ran into an issue with this engine. I have it rigged up here. This is rigged up to the starter, and then this is rigged up to the block as a ground. So check this out. Damn thing is seized. I had swapped everything over: motor mounts, intake, all the heater core lines, pretty much all the sensors, everything I swapped over. I ran into numerous problems with this engine. So it won't even turn over. It had the wrong motor mounts on it. This coil pack mount in the back is broken, so I can't bolt the coil pack down. Then I went to just pull the trans off to see if anything was jammed, like in the flywheel, see why I wouldn't turn over. The torque converter wasn't even bolted in. It was just chilling there. The bowl was stripped in the starter. There was just a ton of stuff wrong with this engine, and I was like, fuck this. I called the dude up. Well, I didn't call him up. I texted him. I was like, yo, what's up, man? This motor fucking is garbage. And I was telling him all the problems, and he felt all bad. And he was like, don't worry, dude. I'll give you your money back. Like, I'm sorry. I thought it was going to be good. Cool. At least I'm going to get my money back, you know? And then I put everything back on the motor to bring it back to him, and he doesn't even want it back. He's like, dude, just keep it. Like, I don't want it. It's no good to me. And I was like, shit, dude. Well, now I feel like a dick, you know? He sent me my money back over Zelle, and then he told me to keep the engine. And I'm like, damn. I feel like an asshole now for yelling at it. I was mad, guys. I was real mad. So here I am stuck with this engine. I don't know what to do with it. So I was like, fuck it. You know, like, let me try to free it over. I was just gonna try to like force it. Like, I tried everything. You know, I took the impact, I put it on the crank, and I was fucking trying to get the motor to turn over, and it just would not turn over. It stuck. He did say it came out of a running car, so I'm kind of wondering why it seized. I looked in all of the holes because this intake, I had the intake off, and it looked like water had gotten into the cylinders. Cylinder 1 did have water in it. I just vacuumed it out. I thought it would be nothing, but what I think I'm gonna do is pull all these spark plugs out and get rid of the compression, and then once I do that, by the way, look at this, is cracked. This motor is a fucking disaster, dude. And I was thinking, well, if I get rid of the compression and I spray some like PB Blaster inside of the cylinder walls, then maybe I can let it sit for a little bit and try to free this thing up. You know, I could hit it with the starter, and then I can also hit it with the wrench on the front, and just try to see if I can get this motor freed up. And if I can, then I'll do a compression test on it, and we'll see if it's even still good. So we're just gonna do that only because I can't find another like inexpensive motor. I literally have no other option, so we're gonna do that. And as for the car, the engine bay is really clean. I cleaned it all up, and it's ready for a motor. So we're gonna see if we can get this sucker spinning over. Here we go. PB Blaster with a straw. So we'll just be real light with it. Spray it in there. So engines do spin clockwise, so put it like this. Yeah, this thing's fucking stuck. Guys, I just wanted to show you my excitement. So first of all, I took out the spark plugs and I sprayed PB Blaster in the top of the piston. I let it sit there for a little bit over an hour, and then what I did was I started working the crank back and forth with a 22mm socket. I took the starter and I spun the starter, and it moved like a whole half a turn. Like, I swear the flywheel went like halfway. So then what I did was I went back a little bit on the wrench, and then I went forward, and then I went backwards and forward on the wrench again. Then I hit the starter again, and then it freed up. So I was like, freaking sick. And then, so I don't really know if that damaged like the piston rings or anything, forcing it like that, but I'm gonna go rent a compression tester, and we're gonna compression test it just to make sure that it still has decent compression. Then up next, I was like, shit, well, if this motor is like, if it's like getting better, then I might as well try to get this strip bolt out. I mean, not strip bolt, broken bolt. So what I did was I took out my welder and I kept welding nuts on top of it, you know, like the nut method. And I was working it back and forth, and I was using a mixture of PB Blaster. God, I love PB Blaster. And look at this, guys. I wanted to show you my excitement. This fucker came out. We got it out. But look how many tries it took. I pretty much took every spare nut that I had. Things are starting to look up. So we're gonna see if we can actually get this motor together and get it running. And if we can, cool. The only problem is it's taking a lot of work. I just wanted to buy a motor and throw it in. So if it does end up working, it ends up being a halfway decent motor, I'll give that guy most of his money back, because I know he did refund me for this. He told me to throw it away. And I was like, fuck it, dude, well, if I'm gonna throw it away, I might as well at least try to get it working. Like, I don't care. So if it still doesn't end up working, I still don't care. I'm gonna get rid of it. But if it does work, I just need a motor to get this sucker driving, because we might have some future plans for this car, and it might not involve this motor. So I just need to get it running, last, I don't know, 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles, which I think it will. Okay, so I just compressed and tested the motor. These things are sweet. You can rent them for like 50 bucks at AutoZone. I mean O'Reilly's. And if you return it within 48 hours, you get your money back. So super cool. Yeah, so cylinder 1 and 3 have low compression. The rest are between like 170 and 185, which I think 180 is like a high compression 2J. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour a little bit of oil in cylinder 1 and 3. We're going to throw the intake manifold on there, plug everything in. We're just gonna drop the engine in the car, and we're gonna plug it all in, and then we're gonna try to fire up the engine, and we're gonna maybe run it for 20 seconds, and then we'll compression test it again. Now, if the rings seat a little bit better, the compression should be a little bit better. So fingers crossed on that. So we gotta throw the ice render motor mounts back on there, and then we'll get it back in the car. So right as I was about to put the exhaust on, I realized 2 of the exhaust studs were stripped. So I had to order something called a helicoil kit, and I think helicoils suck, but we really have no other choice. So what I had done was, the helicoil kit comes with a drill bit. You drill it out 1 size bigger, and then it gives you a tap. So you drill it out 1 size bigger and tap it, and then you thread in this insert, and it threads into the threads, and then it has your smaller threads inside. In my case, M10 by 1.25. So if it was normally just 1 stud, I would have left it, but the one right next to it was stripped too. So now I have to helicoil both of them, and hopefully it holds enough to so we can at least get 19 foot-pounds on these header bolts. So here is this, it's called a thread repair kit. There's the tap right there. Here is the drill bit. I don't really know what size it is. I'm sure it's like a M12 by 1.25 or something. It's usually just 1 size bigger. So all we gotta do is thread in this insert, and then it has this punch. You take the punch and you stick it inside, and then you have to knock off that little ear, because that's how you thread it in. So you have to just punch that off and it'll break right off. So let's get that in. Hopefully we can get the header on. Okay, I pretty much got everything mocked up. I just want to see if this fucking pile even runs. So we're just gonna crank the key. I mean, there's a few things that aren't plugged in, but how bad could it be? So we're gonna try to fire it up real quick. Oh my god, I'm such an amateur. No grounds, no engine grounds. Okay, everything should be primed. The ECU is on. There's not a lot of things connected, but I think we're at a point where we can just start it just to see if this thing runs good, to know if we should keep spending time on this or just pull it back out, find another one. Doesn't seem like it wants to run. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe because the O2 sensors aren't plugged in. I doubt it. Let's go over a few things. Maybe I just got to give it some juice. Kat, can you get in the car? See if I keep it running. Sounds like it's running on all 6. I can't really tell though. It's probably got a big vacuum leak because I didn't connect any of this. That's on. Put that on there. Put this right here. All right, should be good. Crank it. Okay guys, this car is just about ready to be fired up. It's a little bit early, but I can't take it anymore. Hopefully it's not too loud. So I did put headers with cats on it, but I was just tapping the cat on the Y pipe and it sounds hollow. So I'm assuming that cat is gutted too. So we gotta look for one of those, but for now, I think we can get the car started and running. We can get the coolant bled, and we can get fluid going through the transmission. We could bleed the power steering. Yeah, everything's plugged in. The O2 sensors are plugged in, MAF is plugged in, ECU is plugged in, igniter's plugged in. I think she should be ready to start. If it's too loud, I'm just gonna shut it back off and we'll wait another hour or so, but I'm gonna start this thing, man. Quiet. Put some power steering fluid in. There we go. Well, the car's been off for half an hour. I got the AC on high, blowing cold. So luckily this car already had good working AC, so I just unbolted the compressor through to the side, and then when I dropped the engine in, I bolted it back up. So we're good on that. And then as you can see, we got reverse, drive. So at first I was a little worried because it wasn't doing anything, but the more you shifted it through the gears, the more the solenoids fill up with transmission fluid, and then you have to check it, and then it's pretty much empty again, and then you have to fill it up again. So once I did that process about 3 or 4 times, we were in good shape. Now the fans have been kicking on and off, which means that's good. It means it's keeping the temperature at once. We are bleeding the coolant, so we got a lot of bubbles out of that. Heater works, AC works, power steering fluid nice and full on that, a little bit too full actually. I checked the oil is good, it's running good. It threw a code for a cam sensor, but then I realized I just didn't have it plugged in, so that's plugged in now. But other than that, car runs good. I'm gonna finish buttoning everything up because a lot of the O2 sensors are still like really close to the header. There's a few bolts I need to fasten, a few things I need to wipe down. I got the hood back on, and then we're in good shape. We could take this thing for a test drive. So I'm gonna knock that out, and then we're gonna pull it out front. We got this girl in the garage. We're gonna take it for a putt. She's not officially registered yet. Well, she is, but they won't give me the paperwork and stuff until I get a smog. But I gotta drive it to make sure this thing runs good before I take it in to get smogged. So we're gonna take this puppy for a drive. We're gonna go to the gas station because the gas gauge does not work for some reason. I got the AC blowing cold. So let's take this sucker for a putt. I just kind of bled the transmission. I don't really know auto trans too well, but we're gonna wing it, and then we'll check the fluid when we get back. Well guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. The car runs and drives good. There's still, I think the automatic transmission still needs to kind of get some fluid in it. I've been adding fluid because, you know, like I pulled the torque converter off and I emptied the trans and I pulled the trans off. So it took a lot more trans fluid than I thought it would. It said 2.5 quarts online. I put close to 4, but I'm thinking that's because I had to fill the torque converter and all that stuff again. So everything is good with that. The car runs and drives great. There is a traction control light. I don't know what that's all about. There's no check engine light, no codes. So we are going to have to drive the car because it might take a day or two of driving to throw a code. That way we can get that addressed. But as for the car, it's running and driving great. Problem with the suspension, it's like really clunky, but don't worry about that. We're going to address that in the next video. As for the car is in good shape. I just need to wash it again. This door is trashed. This bumper is trashed, but I'm going to get those off of a local parts car. Luckily it's already yellow, so that way we don't have to worry about it. Inside of the car is nice and clean. I put a new steering wheel on here. Well, not new, but you know, a different steering wheel on here. Inside of the car is in good shape. It smells good in here. I got this super cool Bluetooth adapter that works off of an FM radio station. Sounds pretty good enough for now. So yeah, this RS300, we're not gonna do anything too crazy to it, but you know, just the basics. Make it look clean and make it drive good. But thanks guys, if you like this car, subscribe to my channel, follow along on my journey. You know, we're gonna do a few things to it just to kind of make it, you know, more mine. But just stay tuned for the next video, guys. The next video, we're gonna be lowering it. So see you guys later. I, Shrina Garza, Slide Modified out.